Leaders think beyond that of individuals. They paint a picture of what they see as possible and inspire and interact with their team in turning that vision into reality. However, in the One Piece narrative, how leaders function and what makes them tick isn't as sentimental as your action itself. There's a moral requirement that many One Piece fans ask for before you can get their stamp of approval for being a great character. Sakazuki Akainu isn't one to place morality on a pedestal, and his depreciation of morality conjures up a large sum of depreciation of his character by those who oppose his mantra of absolute justice, as a high sense of morality is deemed by the mass as diametrically opposed to the rage-filled authoritarian absolute justice that Akainu seeks. I have always admired Akainu's character, but more so his ideology of absolute justice, but I was never eager to investigate his character and incorporate my thoughts and opinion on him into this audio-visual content that you are now experiencing. The reason being, it's due to me not having faith in my abilities to express and deliver a solid analysis on his character. However, that doesn't speak to a defeatist mentality, but more so to the core hatred that majority of the fanbase have for Akainu, mainly due to his actions and his ideology. But even with that depressing realization, this is something that I always wanted to do. Hopefully you will see how beneficial of a character Akainu is to the One Piece narrative at the end of the video, like I do. What differentiates Akainu's philosophy of justice from his admiral compatriots is that his form of justice isn't a noun that states his desires that the other admiral's philosophy does, nor does his philosophy only singularly describe his behavioral norms. Akainu's philosophy of absolute justice is different. He uses it as a vehicle to effect appropriate change, and that philosophy helps to manifest his true goal of superiority, which serves as a catalyst for him to become a leader who wishes to exert power over everything via being the strongest, making the Navy the strongest they've ever been due to his exploration and innovation despite his short-term tenure is a testimony to Akainu's intentionality, and his intentions are very clear. It is to be the strongest, and developing the strongest unit is directly birthed from his philosophy of absolute justice, because absolute justice requires absolute power. Absolute justice for Akainu is just an infantilism for absolute power. Absolute power always corrupts. Great men who seek absolute power are always bad men. They are proud disruptors. They are agents of chaos. Like all great men, Akainu knows that failure is often a step on the right path to success and remain motivated throughout despite the subpar results. Despite failing to kill Luffy and exterminating the seed of the government's #1 enemy, the Revolutionary Dragon, Akainu's actions at Marineford place him a step further in establishing his institution of power, as he got nominated for the Fleet Admiral position that he currently held. For representation of a certain philosophy or trait to be effective, it must be accurate, and Akainu's philosophy is accurately identifiable with absolute power. That is exemplified by the fact that Akainu is always in a ruthless pursuit for complete dominance. He seeks complete authority to act in any area without intervention, nor restrained by supervision nor review. His verbal conflict with the Gorosei over them going over his head to protect Doflamingo demonstrated how he feels about being insignificant in the decision making of significant events. Being supervised is a deficiency to the absolute power that Akainu seeks. Akainu's philosophy dictates the interesting perspective that he has on certain interactions, and how it directly affects how he formulates his following actions. His extreme beliefs dictate his action on things that he finds to be intolerable, like Marines fleeing the battlefield or disobedience to harsh unconstitutional orders. Akainu knows the value of leadership, and to be a great leader isn't singular in its application of power. The power of speech is also important, and in this very aspect I admire the complexity of ways Akainu's manifestation of his philosophy leads to him being dominant. Akainu is willing to deceive and manipulate his enemies into submission to achieve justice. That speaks to how important Akainu values linguistics, speech, and verbal communication. It is not a coincidence that Sengoku chose him out of all of his subordinates to be the one to trick Squado into stabbing Whitebeard. Akainu's demanding demeanor and serious posture helped him convince Squado about the authenticity of his claims of Whitebeard's betrayal. Akainu knows that understanding one's feelings can be achieved through forced assimilation and immersion, and it is an excellent way to achieve domination over that individual. Likewise, domination over a group, a unit, a nation, an entire verse. Akainu's personality isn't always bound to one trait, despite one trait being more dominant than the rest. He can challenge you with his calm and vibrant demeanor, but would suddenly test your virtues and temper with dog whistle statements to indicate something bad towards you or to infer an unpleasant reality on those who you care for and cherish. Ace was a prime victim of that. Despite being an adamant believer in absolute justice and having a vested interest in the maintenance and pursuit of absolute power, Akainu's unpredictability is one of his key weapons in his arsenal. His energy is difficult to read and thus bad news for you, but something advantageous for him. Akainu is still somewhat of a premature character within the narrative. His backstory is still in the shadows, but that shouldn't stop us from labeling him what he has already proven to be, an amazing character. But why is Akainu so hated and unappreciated despite his attractive traits and indigenous perspective? Well, one word: morality. Akainu isn't heaven sent, and him directly killing one of the most loved characters in the series doesn't help his popularity at all. Among all of his wicked actions and insufferable behavior, being on the aisle of the antagonist seems to be his biggest sin to majority of the fandom. Hopefully, many can see past their feelings and acknowledge how great of a body of work Oda designed Akainu to be and how imposing his philosophy of justice is on the overall narrative. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing, and also do me a favor and spread the word. With that being said, Lando checking out Exodus.